Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Wake Up with Workday. I am your host, Tony Gilfillan, and I am joined with my co-host, Millie Bobby Brown. We are ready to get started here. My co-host is getting quite a bit bigger, but she is going outside a lot more thanks to the puppy training we've been doing over Christmas break. All right, let's jump into it with all the fun tech stuff that I find interesting in the world today. First thing I noticed, LG will be announcing this robot at CES this week called Cloyd. So this is a laundry folding robot. I am not a big fan of laundry and definitely interested in how effective these AI robots are. I feel like this is going to be a big year for robotics, especially with all the AI augmented robotics. So pretty cool stuff. I'm going to be keeping an eye on all the CES stuff this week. I'm sure there'll be plenty of announcements. Saw this one this morning from TechCrunch. Pretty decent article on how AI is most likely going to start moving more toward less sensationalized large models and more specialized augmented models. I won't read this whole thing for you. It's pretty long, but it was a pretty good one. I think it makes a lot of good points about how AI needs to start scaling into these smaller specialized models, especially in all the special industries out there. This one was super cool that I noticed this morning. So IBM actually announced a code assistant for their quantum programming. So I have not delved into the world of quantum programming at all, but I am super interested in how to do all of this. At some point, I do want to play with this code assistant just to see what exactly it's building here. Again, I'm not that deep into the rabbit hole of quantum computing, let alone quantum code. So definitely going to take a look further into this one, but I will put all these links again on the description of this video. So if you guys are interested in checking out this code assistant, feel free to take a look at that link. You guys have been watching the Stranger Things finale. I will not spoil anything happened over the break. It was pretty interesting in my opinion. There's been a lot of mixed reviews online, but I did enjoy that one. Again, won't spoil anything for you guys. Some big news in the NFL, if you guys are fans. The wild cards and playoff brackets are now out there. My Chicago Bears are playing the Green Bay Packers again in the wild card race, so that's pretty interesting. I'm going to do a quick analysis of what I think this playoff is going to turn into. Pretty sure the Patriots are going to beat the Chargers. I am rooting for the Jaguars to take down the Bills. Steelers pulled out a win last night against the Ravens. I think they're going to keep that momentum going. And I think the Broncos are going to take it against the Steelers and the Patriots against the Jaguars. This is a tough matchup, but I got to go with Bo Nix. He's a pretty good rookie quarterback. Drake May is also very talented, but I think the Broncos have quite an offense going for them. Got to stick with my Bears against the Packers this weekend. That's happening on Saturday. Very, very heated matchup. The oldest matchup in NFL history. I think the Niners are going to beat the Eagles, and I wish the Panthers will beat the Rams, but I just don't see that happening. And then let's say the Bears are going to beat the Rams. Seahawks are most likely going to take down whoever they play after their bye. And my hope is that the Bears go all the way. So that's my prediction. We'll see what happens. I also came across an article from a Google engineer that listed some 21 lessons that he had accrued over his 14 years at Google. Again, not going to read this whole article to you guys, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I'm just going to touch on the final thought that he said here. Basically, it comes down to a few core ideas of staying curious and humble and making sure that your work is all about the people and not necessarily the code itself. He makes a lot of different points about questioning whether or not to do code or do a certain type or pattern or even just the project at hand. I think we get so involved in just getting something out the door and shipped, that we don't take a step back and focus on the people aspect of engineering. And I think that's going to become very much more the forefront of engineering these days with all the AI tools. It's not going to be focusing so much on the requirements building and the code itself, but rather, the stakeholders and all the things that go into building coding and all that good stuff. So I think this was a really good article. Again, I'll link this one as well. But I think the focus on that, it's more so about the people these days than it ever has been before, even with AI. So fun little interesting bit. And I did dive into his repositories a little bit, and he actually built this pretty cool Jarvis. So he essentially recreated the Gemini live talking assistant to do a little bit more fancy stuff with image generation and real-time conversation. So I'll link this as well. He's got quite a few little side projects that he linked in his bio. I'll throw that out there just to give him a nod. Very interesting stuff. Some movies and movies and TVs that I saw coming out that I'm super interested. Project Hail Mary, I showed you guys a trailer on that last year. That was a really good book written by Andy Weir, the guy that wrote The Martian. That is coming out March 20th. Super excited for that movie. If you guys have kids, Super Mario Galaxy movie's coming April 3rd. My kids are freaking out about that one. I really like the first Mortal Kombat movie. I know that one got a lot of hate online, but I'm excited for the second one. And if you are a Star Wars fan like myself, the Mandalorian Grogu movie is coming May 22nd. And some TV shows of note coming out. I'm kind of a nerd, and I do watch cartoons. The Invincible Season 4 season is coming out in March. Yeah, that's already marked here. And then Daredevil, that's been a little bit of a hiatus, but another season of that's actually coming out as well. Also in April, The Boys final season 5 is coming. If you like the superhero genre, that's a dark parody on the superhero genre. A lot of seasons already out there for that, as well as a spin-off. Malcolm in the Middle is coming back with Bryan Cranston and the whole crew, so that should be interesting. And then another season of Euphoria. I didn't catch this one, but this has been kind of all over my feeds for some reason lately, so I might need to check this particular show out on HBO. Not 100% sure what it's about, but I've seen a lot of ads for it, so possibly it is good to check out. All right, so that's what is new in my world today. This is what is new in the Workday world. So this is all what happened last year. These are all the notable features that happened over the last 12 months. And then there's a lot of exciting stuff coming as well. I wanted to do a little recap today and touch on kind of all these features and possibly even do a little bit of demo on some of them. So let's go starting from the top here. Importing existing orchestrations. So if you have an orchestrate within your tenant, you can import it into your orchestrations here without having to do a whole lot of extra work by copy and pasting. So super handy doing that. Live errors autocomplete in App Builder. This one is also very handy. So you can basically just make errors in App Builder and you'll get those autocomplete errors. So it's going to basically tell me there's JSON validation here on row 15, unexpected character K, which is that first character. So if I delete this, obviously that's going to fix the problem. And you can also do the autocomplete. So if you just start typing, it's going to try to finish whatever you're trying to type out, giving you kind of all the options available wherever you're in your particular piece of code. So pretty fun stuff, pretty easy to use. Next is Prism. Prism is available now in dev tenants. You do have to get that enabled. Go ahead and check that on the forum if you do want to get that enabled on your dev tenant. All you got to do is fill out a form and we'll get that turned on for you. Connecting to a tenant from your dev site profile. This one is kind of that quality of life change. All you really got to do is off your profile in the dev site. This is that connect tenant. You can literally sign into a tenant preemptively, so you don't have to connect to it anywhere else. Now that I'm connected, I can connect to my API explorers as well as orchestration and app builder without having to connect again until that token expires. And next down here, connect, nope, I just did that one. Generate document generation for model BPs. So this again is a step in your orchestrate you can access, and then below that one is your Copilot scripting and WQL. So you can now use Copilot to generate those PMD scripts as well as WQL. Orchestrate and Insight APIs. This one's brand spanking new from December. Essentially, this is an API for creating, or not creating, but pulling information from your orchestration runs. Merrick did a wonderful deep dive on that on the last KSS in December. If you wanted to check out the recording on that, it is on the forum. HTTP polling, you can essentially do HTTP polling on your orchestrations. All you got to do is turn that on, I believe, within the settings. HTTP polling right here, yeah. So if you click that gear icon top right and then HTTP polling, that's where you find these particular settings. You can add stop conditions as well in there. Scrolling down the list here, we got dev site, SAML SSO. Pretty handy to be able to single sign on across the dev site, including the forum, including community. Very handy. Reusable tenant configs and apps. So if you want to package up those tenant configs and load them as config packages, that's essentially what you're able to do there. Kind of difficult to do or show you guys without a customer central tenant, but trust me, it is a pretty handy one. Orchestrate debugging. Been doing this one quite a bit on this stream. That little debug button on your orchestrates. Very cool stuff. Orchestrate GA. This is now generally available. Orchestrate, you can log in with any of your community login and start building your Orchestrate apps regardless of whether you have an extend license or not. Extend cards on home and hubs. We did this as well on the stream. We built our little stock app and threw a handy bit of information out on the home page using that home card. Rich text fields with model objects. So this is that cool one that you can essentially use that rich text within your fields for model objects. We again also did this one last month before we wrapped up, throwing our rich text from our generated email into our model object. You can now retire your apps that you're not using so you don't see them on your dev site. So any of those, apps that are cluttering your dev site environment, you can basically retire and remove them from all the environments that they are tied to. Orchestrate 48-hour runtime. This is a really cool one. Basically gives the ability to run those orchestrates for up to 2 days. And then model profile group. This one is basically the profile groups, custom profile groups within Workday. So if you log into Workday, I can kind of show that real quick. When you log into Workday and you go to your profile, you can essentially create custom profile groups. So these groups on the left here, you can essentially create custom ones using that new feature of profile groups. Company admins can now reset that MFA on users, so you don't need to bug support anymore. Pretty handy quality life improvement there. And the last one is that WQL component in App Builder. That one's really easy to show. Let's go ahead and jump over and see that one. Where is my app? This logged me out. That one is your WQL queries down here. So you can essentially create components that are WQL queries that you can then reference in your pages. And you can also generate these from Copilot. So let's say I want a page that uses a WQL query to retrieve direct reports. And that should be able to create, oh, needs a tenant connection. I did connect to my tenant. Just give me a quick refresh here because I don't think it realizes that I am connected. All right. Try this one more time. I guess I could have clicked Manage Data Source here instead of navigating back to App Builder, but live and learn. There is a button right here. All right, so I just did a quick, I want a page that uses a WQL query to retrieve direct reports. So it generated me my WQL query, mock data for both my page and my query, and then a page itself. So let's go ahead and just add all that, and we can see that WQL query real quick. So here's what a WQL query component looks like. It is just an ID of the query as well as the query itself. This one, super simple. It is literally just all direct reports from the My Direct Reports data source. And if I look at this on a page, you can see it pops them all in there, kind of in a scattered order. We'd have to do some fiddling here to actually make this pretty, but you can see that pretty handy, pretty nice way to, separate out those WQL statements from your page and in a reusable way where they're in a WQL query. And that kind of wraps up all of those top features of 2025. We do have a poll going on right now. If you guys want to vote on your favorite feature of 2025, we'll highlight the winner of that one on the next DPUC, as well as some upcoming stuff for 2026. All right, and that brings me to what I want to dive into after this particular episode, and we're going to do a little bit of designing today. So I've been a bit of a hobbyist when it comes to 3D printing. You guys notice my little W in the background? That's actually a 3D printed icon off of the Bamboo Studio Labs. If you guys aren't familiar with Bamboo Studios, they're just a 3D printing company that builds printers. And there's a good API system actually within Bamboo Labs that you can control your printer. You can upload different things and control what's going on with the printer, as well as the slicer, which is what you use to move models into your printer. But my idea is that if, say, a 3D printer were to be in an office and you wanted to create, little customized nameplates or, coffee mug holders or just, little fun trinkets around the office, you could essentially automate a way to use Workday to say, my name's Tony, I sit at desk, 3A, and I'd like a nameplate that has my my title on it. So can you please print that for me? So that's kind of what my harebrained idea is. I want to be able to automate creating customized. We're going to start with nameplates and go from there to create customized nameplates that automatically print to my printer, but this is going to be kind of my mock office. I think 3D printers are honestly underutilized in a lot of ways. Even the US military is using them these days. Like there's 3D printers on, submarines and battle carriers that print parts instead of having to lug all these extra parts onto these ships. So personally, I think it's very futuristic feeling to me, 3D printing. I love the hobby, and I think this little app will show really well, and it's also a really good use case for async orchestrations. So I'm going to be able to push out to a third-party app is my idea to create a queue of of these nameplates to push these as they are printed on my printer. So I'm going to draw this out real quick here. So first off, we're going to need Workday. This is going to be where we do all of the UI pieces of this. It's going to have my extend app. We are going to use an orchestration. And this orchestration is going to go to a third-party app that is going to call the APIs from Bamboo. So this is a third-party app that will be calling with a async orchestration. That's actually good to know because these prints are obviously not going to be finished within a reasonable amount of time to use a synchronous orchestration. So we need to do asynchronously call to create this print job, and then eventually when the print finishes, so print starts, or rather queues up, because whether or not, printers take however long to print an actual 3D print, it's going to have to create a queue to be able to then start the next print after a certain, once it's the thing's been pulled off, you tell the printer that you've taken the last print off, and then you have to have some way to start the next queue, and then the next one, and then eventually when your print is done, so say there was already one in the queue, so we need this one that just got sent. Once this finishes, we want to see that one come back to our orchestration and then give a notification to our user, your print is done. Go pick it up off the printer. So this third-party application will most likely be Python, honestly, just because I am leaning more toward Python stuff these days when it comes to third-party applications. And I did find that there is a library out there for this called Bamboo Labs API. So we're going to use that to essentially handle all of our printing on the Bamboo side, and then we're going to handle all of our submissions and customization of the nameplates on the Workday Extend side. So I want to basically create a nameplate to start off that has a customizable piece of it, which if you guys aren't familiar with 3D printing, you can create models that have customizable texts in them very easily that can be swapped out as long as it fits within the bounds of the model. So this should be pretty simple as far as a 3D model goes, and then that whatever name and then a title gets sent in, and then that gets put into the print, gets stuck in a queue. Once the queue comes across the one that we submitted, that submission should then come back to that updates our user to say, go get your printer, go get your print off the printer. And then this should be our nice little application. Don't know if I have much time to start this today, but that's essentially my idea for the next part of this series. Super excited to play with, especially the asynchronous part of this. I think it will work really well. I just need to get my printer to cooperate with that. But I am excited to do it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in chat or reach out to me directly. Again, links from the beginning of the show will be in the description. And we're going to wrap up a little early, but thank you guys for joining me.